Hey everyone, well, not everyone, but mostly Power Squad parents and Power Squad learners from Voyager that are moving into navigation. And if that is not you, you're still welcome to watch because it's a really good preview of what is to come when your child does move into navigation. Or if you have a navigation child, this is also very good information for you to know. So I apologize because at the end of the year, I had this nudge to share this information with you. And then the end of the year came and went, and half of summer has come and gone. And so I am sorry that I didn't provide this clarity sooner. And if you have questions after this, which you may didn't even know you had, and now you might, or you've had questions and we haven't connected yet, then please feel free to reach out. So if you know me, you know this is, well, you'll see, this is what I geek out about. This is what I love so much about Acton is our learning design and how it is from beginning to end designed with your child in mind. And we even say begin with the end in mind. If you have recently come to the school, you may remember at our meeting where we ask you, our very first meeting at the school is imagine your child is 18 years old and they are ready to launch into the world. What skills and experiences do you want them to have so that you, as the parent, feel 100% confident that they are ready to thrive? And then we list them out on the board, and almost never, actually, I think there's one exception where the skills listed on the board are never academic. The one we hear most commonly that is most connected to academics is like a financial awareness, an ability to understand finances and be empowered in that way. So these aren't just us saying it. This has come from years and hundreds of meetings with parents where they tell us what they actually want and what's actually important to them. And so then, if you remember, we go to this slide right here, and it feels really outdated to me right now, but maybe I can zoom in. I don't know if you can see it zoomed in when I do that, but it paints the picture of how the whole learning design of Acton is it's designed differently on purpose. And we start with Discovery, which is a foundation studio. The beginning love of learning is started here, and really strong foundation in reading and math, as well as the character skills of honesty and friendship. And then they progress to Voyager, which is a love of learning studio. And in that final year of Voyager Power Squad, they take on more deliberate accountability for their learning, because ideally it will have been very well developed, their love of learning, so that in that Power Squad year, they are ready, excited to take a next challenging step. But here's this so important thing, and it makes me emotional almost when I think about it, that if that love of learning step is not met, if a child doesn't get the opportunity to fall in love and stay in love with learning, they actually have to go back and get it at some point before they can enter the next phase. There's an incredible book called The Phases of Learning that describes this phenomena. And I'm actually one of those. I fell out of love of learning and reading very early on. And it wasn't until I started homeschooling my children and realized I wanted to do everything different and eventually opened the school that I found my love of learning, which opened up the next phase, which in the book, if you're interested, is called the scholar phase, which opened up a mission phase. So this is actually documented like stuff about how we develop and learn, and the process of expanding our learning capability through the foundations to love of learning. Then, about the time when a child hits puberty, if they have a strong love of learning, they're ready to get into what we call the deep study phase. So, about 7th to 10th grade, which is the navigation phase. And in our navigation, I'm going to get more into this, but basically they complete their high school transcript, or most all of it, and then they pick up those interview and resume skills. They become servant leaders, and where we're going to start talking mostly today when we talk about navigation is they develop the habit of hard work. And what we as a society have done is we've gotten this backwards. We want to see our young children looking like a college student, sit at a desk, be quiet, study hard, get those academic accolades. And most of you are here because something felt off about that with you. That's why you chose our school. But I still am guilty with my children of being really nervous when we don't see some academic rigor, the kind of academic rigor we have in our mind in the 2nd to 6th grade time period, which is why that Power Squad year, that 6th grade, is a time of transition. And this is also in the phases of learning that when they're in that middle age, they actually are physiologically, mentally, emotionally, they are switching. They're literally transitioning. One day might be a love of learning day. The next day, they're excited about a new math concept or a story that they're writing, and they'll get into that deep study mode. And they actually, Voyager's designed to give them that flexibility to develop the skills of still maintaining that love of learning and then having some push and some maybe pull or some deadlines to help them lean into the habit of hard work that must accompany a deep study phase. Okay, hopefully that makes sense and that you see, we won't really talk about Launchpad today too much, but hopefully you can see with this graphic that it is designed this way to open up the opportunity for their next great adventure. And if you haven't had the opportunity to watch some of our next great adventure speeches yet, they're on our YouTube channel. You will be blown away, and not one of them will you look at and worry about their academics anymore. Those kind of concerns, and they are concerns and they are important, but they fade away once we allow this natural process to happen for our children and as a community. And it's hard and it takes courage because it is so different than how we were raised and how most of the world is still doing it. Okay, so this is kind of an overview of that, just a little up close. I don't know why I have them both in here. Ta-da, the journey to Launchpad. That's actually what it's all about for us. Everything we do is with the end goal in mind of not just Launchpad. That's kind of symbolic for them being ready to thrive in the world. So if what we're doing in the studio day to day, day in and day out, doesn't have some real world application, then we should stop doing it. And if you see practices that we're doing that you don't feel like have real world application, come to us, because that is our commitment. That is our promise. That's why we have a different kind of school, is because it's designed to prepare your child to thrive. And that looks different than other kinds of preparation. Okay, so I won't get too much into that. Just a real quick, okay, and I'll talk a little bit about Next Great Adventure Program. In fact, I was just at a gathering of Acton owners in Utah, and we spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time trying to convince other owners that are not yet participating in the NGA Next Great Adventure experience to dive in full on and do it, because the benefit we offer is above and beyond anything I've seen anywhere ever. Not just for high school learners, but for anyone who will dive into the kinds of challenges that they do. But going back here, they have to have these other skills. They build on each other so they're ready to take on the Next Great Adventure Program. If they don't have those mindsets or habits, it actually is, they're not going to be ready, and they won't get the full benefit from it. So that is why the stacking of the studios and the skills is just so important. Anything on here? The hard work of elementary, middle school pay off when your child creates a custom learning plan that takes them beyond traditional boundaries to their own next great adventure. And that is our full goal, is to help them not only be prepared with the knowledge they need, but the skills they need to actually go out and do the thing that they want and need to do. Okay, in navigation, just look at this side with me. Complete high school transcript, interview and resume skills, habits of hard work, and then this big red here. Experience how responsibility equals freedom with higher stakes. So they do this in the other studios. experience how responsibility and taking on greater responsibility equals greater freedom for them. That is a principle we practice across all of the studios. So now I want to take you down here to where it says this little Voyager studio. Remember, it's a love of learning studio. This has to be in place. The love of learning has to be strong in order to advance to the next level of freedom skills that are shown here on this graphic. And this is actually so fun. It's a newer graphic that at the end of last year created with one of the navigation studios. As I talked with them and they with me about what is the order that these skills have to be gained in order to unlock their launchpad and next great adventure experience. And I don't mean unlock like we give them a key. It's more like they unlock the potential within themselves because they have the skills. So first and foremost at the bottom here is this habit and grit of hard work. Unless they get there and they're ready at this age, because remember, they've transitioned and they have a strong level of learning, they're ready to work hard and get into that deep study mode. And it is harder and it's more rigorous than what we do in other studios. They're ready for it. Once they have that, they can get excellent in their work. Sometimes we look at a young learner's work, even a young navigation learner's work, and see the lack of excellence. And I know sometimes that's scary in Voyager because we don't focus on that. We focus on love of learning, knowing that there are years ahead of them when they're more developmentally ready to step into the excellence. And when do they actually need to be excellent? They need to be excellent at the end. At the end. So the whole time, we don't wait to work on excellence, but we're okay giving some space and time for them to develop true excellence because it comes after they develop this incredibly hard skill of hard work, which includes goal setting and time management. And it's like self-management to the, I don't know, whatever, high degree. It shows up as hard work in a school setting. And then there's so many other aspects, as you know. But so once they've got this skill of hard work, then they can begin to work on their excellence. And that's when we start to see them striving for greater detail in their work, striving for less errors, whether it's math or particularly in writing is where we see this really take over. And it's not because they're immediately excellent, it's because they're working to it. They draft, they get feedback, they redraft. That's how we become excellent writers and become excellent at lots of other things. But it is the process of doing that that matters, not the product. So as they go through the process, their product gets better and better and better. And then the next step is really truly taking ownership for your learning and integrity in the kind of work that you're producing. So again, it's a next level, and you can see how we're starting to bridge into attributes now. We want our learners to, yes, be hard workers and yes, be excellent, but really it becomes something more and deeper about who they are as a person, their identity, and it is somewhat connected to the type of love and effort they are putting into their work. Hard work, excellence, then they begin to own it. And that opens up the opportunity for them to then serve others more fully because they have the confidence that is built from these previous steps in order to look outside of themselves and serve. Now, we could have a person with a natural servant leader heart. You might think, oh, they don't need to do all those other things. They're just a servant leader. And I agree with that. However, our job is to prepare them so that when they go out into the world, they're ready to thrive. And so if that natural servant leader doesn't also pick up these skills of hard work and excellence and taking ownership over work, over their life, in a sense, then they're not actually able to go out and serve to their full capacity. So again, taking it out of the studio and looking at a much bigger, broader picture of what this is and what this means for your child's life is our challenge, and also our challenge to communicate that we're all doing this together, and it's really hard to look that far and look that broadly. So this is kind of my job, and I was slow to get this to you. So again, I apologize. And if you kind of see on the side here that these are daily is how we begin to develop the habit of hard work. Then in the studio, we look at our excellence over a little longer period of time, excellence and integrity. So that these patterns, I mean, hard work, we're doing that every day. It's really easy to track and manage and develop on a daily basis. The others are a little more flux, a little more, they take a little more time. And we're good with that because we want the learners to grow in their skills and their ability to expand what they're capable of with a daily boost of feeling productive, whereas that hard work comes in. And then our servant leadership, we usually prove and put on a sessionally arc because they take on a project or several hours and then they report them sessionally. And then over the course of years, they become NGA ready. So I'm going to just pop over here to show you sort of some of these things will change as we meet with the learners again. But this whole this whole graphic here, you do not need to know the minutia right now, but this hard work, there's responsibilities that prove hard work, and when they do those responsibilities, they earn these freedoms. And at the next level of excellence, then they earn these freedoms. And so up. So these are like their freedom levels, and that is how they progress in skill, attribute, and then how they daily can practice them in the studio. So if I think about how I could implement this as a mom, like I can't even fathom. But because of the studio setting, it allows the flex of freedom and responsibility so they really can dial in these skills. And it's set up in a way that if they choose not to, then they really aren't able to stay at the school anymore. And I'm okay with that because they'll do it. When you practice working hard every single day, you become a hard worker. And the system holds them to that if they haven't developed it already. And so they can rise and thrive. Now I'm just going to jump into our journey tracker. I know this is really long, but I want to show you inside Navigation Badge Plan. So with this kind of as a framework for what theoretically this all looks like, I want to show you like deep down in there so that you can see all of those details. Okay, thank you. And if you're not interested in that, it's fine. We'll see you at your journey meeting. You'll get to go over it with your guides a little bit more deeply, and then it's all good. If you are or have other questions, reach out.
Okay, here we are in Journey Tracker, and we are going to just glance at Nora's badge plan here. Thanks to Nora for allowing us to peek into the work she's done over the last several years. So just to give you a quick glance at sort of the zoomed out point of view. So we have on top family badges and servant leader badges. And it's a little different than Voyager because in Voyager, their badge plan is it showcases when they've completed a body of work, just like it does in navigation, but their day to day stuff, their work, isn't all recorded in Journey Tracker or may not be. So ideally it is, but they operate more on a daily points and habit building basis. And so until they complete, like a math level and they want to go in and show it, it might look like they aren't doing that. And while that is somewhat similar in navigation, it's much more day by day. Here's your challenge. Where are you at with your challenge? Submit your challenge, get your challenge approved, and then it shows completed in Journey Tracker. So you'll just notice every session there is a series of badges in each of the areas. So civilization, here's a place for electives and foreign language. So when we get to the high school credits, they can earn those. And they can start those at any time. They don't need to wait. If they're interested in that, then they do that right away. Grammar, which is an extension of their writing and their reading, but there's no specific grammar practice that Nora has on her badge plan. Obviously, her standard math, PE, Quest, reading, and writing. And then in Quest is where we get the those science credits, among other things. So I'll jump through these quests really quick just because that's sort of where we're looking. So some critical thinking through entrepreneurship, Quest Biology 1, and then this is probably her other biology. So this year she got her biology credits with some communication credits, debate, critical thinking, behavioral economics is part of a high school economics credit, and then NGA application or audition. Then another sort of money matters, entrepreneurial, sales introduction. Then Nora's already got her physics session 1 and 2 here. So this is her complete high school physics credit that she's already worked on. So sometimes there's an idea that in navigation, in these other studios, that there's an expectation that maybe it's more like Voyager, much more free-flowing. But remember that love of learning, they are now stepping into a deeper level of learning. I'm just going to pop up here and give a little context about the orange, yellow, green, and blue levels. So we have these different levels so that a learner that has 4 years in navigation before they expect to apply or go to Launchpad, they can do the orange, yellow, green, and blue. And essentially what that means is the deliverables or the challenges are just, they're the same for everyone, but maybe slightly less in the orange level as they're building that skill. So for civilization, in fact, it might even say in here, I'm just going to click randomly on one of these. So they research, they do their discussion and their personal writing, and sometimes it will say, sorry, I didn't look at this first. Oh, here we go. Orange, 150 word deliverables with a late penalty of 300. Yellow, 100, green 150, green 250, and then blue 250. So these are the same for Civ, but we'll often see that they just gradually up level with the learners as they are up leveling their skills. So it's a way for them to not have to have different material to work at their own level, but to be able to still engage as a whole studio in the discussion in whatever way suits them. So the other cool thing about this is that even if you are going or plan to be in navigation for 4 years, so 9, 10, well, that doesn't even work. It would be like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th is what it would be if we cared about grades. But you are like a very ambitious, your excellence and work ethic is high already, then you can choose to opt into the yellow level or the green level or the blue level. It's the most challenging, I would say, when it comes to the science quests, is sort of where that additional work and maybe some of the writing badges, there's just a higher level of expectation. But if they're up for that challenge, then they can do that. So that helps our younger learners really design their future, how quickly they want to earn those high school credits, because it's up to them. If they're doing the work that is at the excellence level of their high school peers, then they can earn those credits. So it's a way for them to design their plan in addition to being able to design their plan in other ways. For example, any of these open boxes are a place where you can put, they're placeholders. It's a place where you can put a badge in there. So Nora, has had 2 full years in navigation, and then she has some additional things marked off here. So session 6, civilization, she had an additional Civ session, which might have been done in her Power Squad Voyager year, I'm not sure. Some additional servant leader credits, and then another Civ there. So, what actually maybe happened is she just elected to do the blue level civilization requirements so that she can work towards getting her high school credits. And then, of course, she can show all of her work here. So I just wanted to show this to you to like, so you can see that the depth and expectations of the work and navigation are both meant to meet the learner where they are and help them up-level their skill, but also really, really challenge them. This is not easy stuff. And I think sometimes our Voyagers have so much fun and they do learn to work hard, but you don't see the rigor because it's not captured in Journey Tracker like it is in Navigation and Launchpad. So let's just have a little fun here and look at, let's see, that's our Writing Foundations badge. This badge will help you with foundational elements of being able to write well, including writing a paragraph. Here's some requirements for the badge. It walks her through everything to do over a weekly basis. And I think it seems often one of the parents' concerns is about 6th, 7th grade is my child isn't a very good writer. And so I specifically click on writing for this reason. So in Voyager, it's a love of learning studio. And so they are learning to love to write. And only when they have that solid foundation does it make sense to start picking apart their writing. They do it a little bit in their Power Squad year, and they have to get peer reviews and they have to get greenlit by the guide. But they eventually go to the next level in navigation where they're learning some of these very basics, and some of them know them already, but it's just a real refresher. We call it the foundations, so that they start to make sure in a very deliberate way that they are getting those foundational writing skills, and they take their love of learning and then their love of writing, they're connect it with those foundation skills, and it creates a really strong writing foundation that, honestly, the way I look at writing is kind of like, when do they need to be really good at it? Well, they need to be really good at it when they start to send out apprenticeship letters, when they start to ask for or think about college and write their college essays. And so it's not like let's wait till then, but it is like let's give them a gentle step into not hating writing by easing them in, giving them a lot of challenge, but most of all focusing on the process of writing, which is produce something, get feedback on it, revise it, get feedback on it, revise it, get feedback on it. So the process of writing is what we focus on. But to dig a little bit deeper into some of the genre writings that are available in navigation are just really in depth. So this is went along with Nora's biology session, and it's a biography, a biologist biography. So you do some research, an intro to paradigms, you're going to pitch your biology and finalize your biology hero. Then you start writing. This is the genre challenge: finding, evaluating, and using sources, pre-write, compare and contrast, pre-write, research, biology hero. So it walks them through the entire process of learning in individual chunky challenges divided into chunks to help them understand the process of writing. And let's just look here at, there's a character sketch. Okay, so cute, Nora. Here's my draft. I'm going to click on it. Keep in mind, this is my first draft, and I realize I still have a lot of work to do, and this is not the final product. How beautiful that she knows that. This is her first go at it, and look at this. This is her first draft. Let's see her final here. Oh, and here's her final. So, like, this isn't light or, soft work, if you will. And not all writing badges are this in-depth, but I love that you were able to see that. And let's just go back to kind of watch Nora's writing evolve. Later on, she did a genre hero allegory. Oh, maybe she didn't actually finish this one. Hold on, I don't know. I thought there was a check mark. Sometimes those dots mean that that every challenge isn't done. But let's look at her final thing. Here it is. Look at this. Free writing requirement. Her first draft, first critique, revision, second critique. second revision, third critique, allegory third revision, self-critique, allegory fourth revision, short version, final draft, and her lessons learned. Let's just scroll down her final draft. I mean, actually just like want to cry when you realize the amount of work that goes into this really 3-page paper that she has done is remarkable. And it is about this process. It is not about this final draft. However, the process gets her to that final draft. And when she goes to write an important essay or email that really connects to her NGA or is deeply a part of her journey in some way, she knows exactly what to do. Navigation, actually the learning in any of the studios is not light, but navigation is when they really get to start incorporating what they've been learning and practicing and the foundations from Discovery and Voyager and put it into practice. And then she's got some lessons learned here. So talk about a whole nother level of learning. Not only do you create the piece through this intensive process, then you go back and talk about what you learned and how you'll do it differently next time. There's just beyond any learning design that I know I experienced in even through all of my college years. It's remarkable. And Nora's a wonderful example of how this can really play out as the learner steps into those processes and does the practice and the hard work and has a deep love of learning. So that's kind of an ideal scenario. Trying to think if there's anything else. On reading, she's got a couple different reading badges. I happen to know Nora is a voracious reader, so I'm sure that her orange level, she only had to do 2 deep books for the year, but I know she was reading all year, and they need to read every day. So even though if it's not recorded necessarily, because there's only 2 required in the orange level, I know that she's reading and because she loves to read. Again, a fruit of Voyager love of learning, of an early preservation of a love of learning and not turning everything into a task to be done. And then in her, whatever level this is, yellow, there's 3, 4, 4, and then they continue doing their reading and their deep books all through Launchpad. Quick note on foreign language, they can, start it at any time, but it is technically needed for a high school credit, and we have 2 different, or I think there's 2 sets of foreign language badges, and when they complete both of the badges, then they have their credit for that. And then a quick note on electives. These are on here because they need them for their high school transcript. They can be very, very flexible. Okay, so right here, Nora's got typing, then she dug deep into chess. She's got chess, and maybe another chess. So she's got this elective. Sometimes if your learner is involved in other outside electives, they can count that as elective, or if it's a sport, they can count it for their PE, and there's a way that they fill out their PE badge to make what they're doing count, and a little more deliberate than maybe they would otherwise. But another example is they need a fine arts credit for high school. So it's not listed here, but one of the quests is a photography quest, and so they get their fine arts credit that way. But my children all participated in theater and fine arts outside of school, so then their photography, let's see, am I saying that right? So then all of those extra things they used as electives. And so they have a vast amount of electives. We want them to be able to count everything they're actually doing and show it in their transcript. So this gives them a lot of freedom and ability to create something very visibly impressive for college. And it's real. It's all here. It's all accounted for in their journey tracker. And we find that our learners, they have a lot of credits, legitimate credits on their transcripts, because they are able to, first of all, pack in a lot more learning, and then we work to make the learning they're doing be very efficient, and then to show it on their transcript. They can just do so much more learning because they're not stuck in this is how you get this credit. You have 6 months or whatever it is to get this half a credit and this half a credit. They stack over time, they work in the sessions, and they just get a lot of work in. I wasn't planning to do this, so you could stop it now if you want, but I'm going to go and pull up a transcript. Oh, let's go here to Isaac. Now, Isaac he is very academically minded and did work over the summer, which is all shown in his Journey Tracker badge plan. He also took credits at the local college while he was doing his NGA experience and Launchpad and all of the things that we offer. So I am just saying his transcript may be somewhat of an exception, but it also can be the exception for your child. He is driven to become an engineer. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew what he needed to do. He knew where he wanted to go to college. He knew he wanted to be there a year early. So this is the freedom and the power they have when they see that how much work they can do and that they can pack it in and do it well, and then can show for it everything. But I chose his because you can kind of see he's got just his normal credits. All of the badges translate to a traditional transcript. His electives: apprenticeship, leadership, entrepreneurship and sales, personal finance, which there's probably a personal finance credit that isn't an elective as well, because it is one of their economics credits for high school. But anyways, he did it this year, and he didn't need it on another year because he did his elective or his economic credit. So he counted it here as an elective. And then professional communication, which is what they get from their NGA audition experience. So this first year, total credits, year one summer, I'm telling you, wow. So their quests count in lots of different ways, and sometimes it's just what makes the most sense for them. Again, it's not like, I don't know the right word, but like gaming the system. It's using the system to showcase the work that is actually being accomplished in a way that's the most beneficial for the learner and for a college to look at and like really get a picture of who Isaac is. So, I mean, there it is. I'm showing you. The reason I even thought to do this is the total number of credits earned is 38.5. And I think, I wonder if this is the same. Okay. Let's just look it up. How many credits needed to graduate in Texas? Okay, to graduate high school in Texas, you need a minimum of 22 credits. To earn an endorsement and qualify for academic admission to state universities, you must earn 26 credits. So you can just see that like there's no lack of official on the record credits, as well as the actual work accomplished is all here, all checked, all upgraded, and quality. Well, we get to quality. We don't start with quality, but we get there. And that's the point of all of the stacking of skills and habits and year-over-year opportunity to choose into what makes the most sense for your learner. Okay, that is it. Thank you so much for spending the time on this. If you have other questions, let me know, because I obviously love to chat about all this. And it's really important that you and your learner have a sense of what it means for them as they move into the year. So we'll see you at Journey meetings, if not before, or if you want to talk through things before. I'm happy to do it.